Yo, what's up, guys? Joker bringing you another video. This time going over Diablo 4 Season 7, the season of witchcraft, I believe it is called. At this point, I am effectively done with what I'm going to be playing of this season. That may be quite shocking to a few people since it's only been a couple of days, but I want to say probably like 30 hours, right? We made it to Torment 3. We went ahead and we got all the gear that we wanted to play my build. We completed majority of the season journey, right? We're up until champion, but honestly, since getting to destroyer only really gives you this pet, I was not motivated to get there. But we also hit level 90 on the battle pass, so we could get our free little raptor horse, which actually kind of does look cool, right? Looks like a dragon raptor horse type thing. So the horse actually does look pretty neat. But let's go ahead and go over my opinion for this season. Some of you may know that I have been a pseudo advocate for Diablo for the last couple of seasons. Season 5 and Season 6 gave me a large amount of hope for the future of Diablo 4. The game really seemed to be going in an overall positive direction, and I was really enjoying the quality of life updates that they were making with like reworking the gear to be better and stuff like that. On the flip side, uh, Season 7 kind of feels like where 5 and 6 made a lot of progress. Season 7 feels like they took a couple of steps back, right? Season 5 and 6 were really good, in my opinion, because they added a lot of quality of life and ease of access. Season 7 does kind of the opposite of that, in my opinion, because Season 7 just kind of overwhelmingly rewards the players for minimal to no effort. At this point, I'm sitting on 400 million gold for really no reason. And it was really nice when I was leveling up, being able to go ahead and craft my gear with the constant upgrades that I was getting. But once I hit level 60, and I started grinding Paragon, and then I went to Torment 2, and I got the majority of the greater affects gear that I was going to use. The upgrades became pretty much non existent, where essentially what I would be looking for is items that have 2 or 3 greater affixes, which drop extremely rarely. So, all the resources that I have been given kind of do nothing. They just inflate the worthlessness of these items, right? I don't have to really go out and grind for any of these, which is good and which is bad. It really kind of kills my motivation that everything was kind of given to me for minimal to no effort. I didn't really feel that sense of progression that you should have in an ARPG when you're overcoming these milestones, right? It, like I said early on, it felt pretty good because it did feel like that. Level 40, level 50, I was swapping around my gear. I was able to craft it. I was able to upgrade it, no problem. Previously, that was an issue. You weren't given enough materials to actually streamline the leveling experience, right? But they went ahead and they overcompensated too much. Now you're given way too much, and the gear, items, and resources that drop while you're leveling are extremely easy to replace and usually redundant, right? There's no loot filter in Diablo 4. So, majority of the time when you're out farming items, once you get to level 60, majority of these items are things that you're never going to touch, and they're even worse, automatically thrown into your stash, right? When you leave a zone with unique items on the ground or the items with aspects on the ground. They automatically go into your stash, and it holds 10 items. And when you come back into a town and you go to your stash, it'll be flashing and it'll say, hey, you gotta pick up these items. Majority of the time, these items are useless. So you just walk over to the blacksmith and you disassemble them as soon as you get them. And it is kind of redundant to overwhelm the player with such a large amount of useless gear. So it's really weird, in my opinion, how Blizzard was seemingly getting better and better moving on with the seasons, right? They were trying to make D4 go into its own niche and everything like that. But at this point, it's gone beyond them trying to make it a casual, friendly game to where there's really no benefit. Like there's no dopamine or what the feeling of success when you're progressing, since everything's handed to you for minimal to no effort. So the two steps that they took forward with season 5 and season 6, it almost feels like they took two steps backwards by essentially just giving us anything. Players already complained about the lack of progression, the lack of in-game content, which season 7 did not add any of. Now you get to that point faster and you have nothing to really do. Right now, if I wanted to continue, the only things that I could really do is pretty much farm for perfect gear, essentially 3 4 greater affix items, or farm the open world zone for the season quest, and pretty much just a different colored Helltide, which in my opinion is a really bad choice. They rushed us to the end game that is non-existent. So I'm a little disappointed with what they did. I'm not sure if it wasn't like fully tested on how many resources or how much junk was dropping. But at this point, it's literally you're leaving 99.9% of the stuff that drops on the ground. You're not aiming for any type of goal, right? You're trying to push for an end game that's non-existent. That's essentially what they did, is they geared us up to go to an end game that's just not there. So I think, once again, I think that was a really bad choice. But besides shitting on what I think they did wrong, what did they do well? Kind of pseudo the same thing. I really did enjoy the fact that they were now giving me enough materials to make my progression feel smoother. Uh, I wish that they gave us a little bit less because it was always overkill. It never was like the perfect amount, but in my opinion, it was much better than when in previous seasons you would be trying to upgrade a character. You would have pretty much finite resources, and you really had to decide, is it worth it for me to try to reroll these affixes? Or even worse, way back when, is it worth it for me to use these legendary aspects, right? Scarcity of resources was a really big problem, so I'm happy that they did decide to address it and make it better. I think that if they bring it down a little bit, it'll be in a really good spot. If they go ahead and take away like 30 45% of the resources that all of the caches give you now, I think that that would be really good, because then we'd be in that medium middle ground where you have enough resources to re-roll and craft your gear and everything, but you're not sitting on an extreme overabundance. Apart from that, another thing that they added this season was the armory. And this is something that we've been waiting for a very long time, right? The ability to swap between loadouts and skill trees at the click of a button. This has been extremely helpful for me throughout my season progression because it allowed me to drop items and test different types of builds and essentially min max what character that I wanted to play, right? It allowed me to play around changing nodes on my skill tree, on my Paragon tree, all of this. And at the click of a button, go ahead and swap to another character that I may have liked better. So kudos there. I really think I really appreciate this. This is a really good thing, right? The fact that we have the armory now. But apart from that, there's not a whole lot that this season really did well. All they really did is recycle every other season and slam it into one. They didn't add any new content. Pretty much what they did is they took the season of blood with the vampiric powers, and they took the malignant burrows from what? No, season 2 was the season of blood, right? And then season 1 was like the malignant tunnels. That's kind of what they slammed together, and then they made it into a Helltide format. So essentially, that's what they did. They made Helltides and they recycled mechanics. So while I did enjoy it for a little bit, it became extremely redundant, extremely quick, because it was content that I've already done for several seasons. It was nothing new, it was nothing interesting. And on top of everything, it's insanely grindy. The amount of rot that you have to farm to level up the powers is insane when you take into consideration the amount of rot that you need to go ahead and upgrade even one gem, right? You need 1,000 of the rot to make one gem. And then to make a middle tier gem, you need 2 gems and a bunch of fragments. So essentially, you need to farm 2,000 rot. And then to make a legendary gem, you need to have that medium tier gem and then 2 of the lower tiers. So that's like another 4,000 rot. And the rot comes extremely low when you're farming in the Helltide zones, right? I don't know exactly what they're called, but the blue Helltides, and you get rot extremely slowly. Let me go ahead and show you what I mean, right? So to make a gem, you need 1,000 restless rot, 1 fugitive head, which is like a 8% chance on an 8% spawn rate. You need to spawn the boss, which is an 8% chance, and there's an 8% chance that he'll drop it. So already super low fucking drop rate. You need 50,000 gem fragments of a respective gem to make one. And then to get to the tier 2, you need 2 of the base tiers and 75k of the gem fragments. And then to get to these late game ones, you need 2 of the base, like I was saying, and 1 of the medium, and then 100,000 gem fragments. That's an insane amount of resources and an insane amount of grinding for a mechanic that's all not that enjoyable at all. I don't see many people even getting these legendary occult gems. I don't see many people getting regular magic occult gems. And the worst part is rotting caches that you trade in a fugitive head for. So once again, the 8% of the 8%. And that's on Torment 3, by the way. Anything less, the drop rates are obviously worse. Only gives you 300 rot. If you're trying to level up your witch powers, they cost scaling like 25, 50, 75, and then 100, right, of this rot. So you really have the choice of, do I want to level up my witch powers and have stronger passive buffs? Or do I want to try to farm for a singular legendary gem? Because you really can't do both. It's weird that every other resource is in an overabundance. And for whatever reason, they decided to give us an insanely small amount of restless rot. On top of that, the Coven favor levels up extremely slowly. As you can see, right now I have 506 Grim Favors out of 2000. You get Grim Favor by going into the Blue Helltide and clearing the missions. From what I've seen, it's about 20 to 30 favor per point of a Tree of Whispers progression, right? So, as an example, this Entangled, once completed, it would give me one Grim Favor, and it would give me 20 to 30 of the Grim Favor, right? So the Grim Favor here is worded really weird because it says Grim Favor for the progression of the tree, and it also says Grim Favor over here. It's not a one-to-one. Like I was mentioning, you get about 20 to 30 of the Grim Favors for the progression for the reputation per one Grim Favor that you get farming in the Helltide zone. So with the 2000, you have to fill up the Tree of Whispers mission about 10 times per level. And when you're only getting 1 or 2 points, it takes forever. The fastest way that you can actually farm is jumping between zones and clearing out all of the Grim Favors that give you like 3, 4, or 5. And then you just leave that zone and you go to another zone. What I've personally been doing is I've just been jumping around and farming the boss, right? I jump here, I kill the boss, I get the Grim Favor. If I'm close to the Trio Whispers completion, I go ahead and do 1 or 2 other things, and then I jump to the other zone. And then I do the same thing here, and then I do the same thing here. And since they only last about 30 minutes, it's easy to rotate between them, but it's more tedious, annoying than anything else, really. So that's pretty much my feelings on the season 7. I'm a little bit disappointed. It feels like they took 3 steps forward with the last couple of seasons and 2 steps back with this one. I do appreciate that they went back to visit older mechanics and like fine tune them and make them better, but that's not enough to be its own season. Diablo 4 seasons, for whatever reason, have the least amount of content out of any ARPG that I play. This is comparing it to Torchlight, Last Epoch, Path of Exile 2. D4 seasons have the smallest amount of content while they have the biggest budget. They have the biggest company. Blizzard is the biggest company. All these other ARPGs are indie dev studios. So, in my opinion, it's kind of ridiculous that the seasons seem to lack content and we didn't get any kind of update with this. Every other ARPG season usually gives new content on top of it, right? This is just recycled, reused stuff. It's disappointing that this is what they chose to do, but I'm going to stop complaining. Overall, what would I give this season? Probably a 6, being generous, right? Like a generous 6. And the 6 is primarily coming from the armory existing. Like that's majority of what I like about this. Apart from that, it's extremely mediocre and extremely mid. I mean, the horse and the armor set are kind of cool, but the horse doesn't look as cool as I thought it was going to, right? I thought it was going to look a lot better. That's why I made sure to grind all the way. But it's like, eh. And before anyone says anything, oh, well, if you didn't enjoy it that much, why did you spend money on it? I didn't. I've been using the points from my pre-order to buy the battle pass since like season 1, right? I haven't put more money into it. The only thing I bought additionally was the expansion when it came out. So those are the points that I've been using, the points that I got from buying the game essentially. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with this and future content. And until next time, take care.